ahead and call to order our special meeting for Friday, September 20th, 2 p.m. Call the roll.
Ball. Jensen.
Present.
Maroney.
Present.
Scott. Zierden.
Present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will move on to the interview. Go ahead and
Mr. Bohnsack, if you want to
come
come
join
to the
us.
hot seat. Apologies. It is on, or he needs to turn on? Okay. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. Been a minute since we've seen you here in City Hall, so welcome back.
Been about 9 months, probably.
There we go. Thank you for coming for the interview. We just have a few questions for you, and we're just gonna break into it. We do all have in front of us a copy of a contract that you'd provided to the city, along with your resume with past experiences. So just a few questions that we have is, what do you think we should know about your education and work experience as it relates to the interim city administrator position?
Oh, my. Well, I've spent 33 years as a full-time city administrator. After I retired from the full-time profession, I did some part-time work for the League of Cities. I have, since that time, I've had some contracts with small cities to do, and Breezy Point included, where I've done I think I was here for about 12 years doing the planning and zoning stuff for you folks on a part-time basis. Throughout that 12-year period, I did, I think, 4 other interim city administrator stints. Those communities that I have worked for have, and did one more, just got done with the city of Cross Lake. Those communities that I've worked for on an interim basis ranged in size from about 2,500 people, population, to approximately 5,500. So I think I know the trials and tribulations of small communities. I know the trials and tribulations of growing communities. I think from a professional standpoint, one of the things I've really been proud of was the fact that when I was in New Prague, I started in New Prague when there were about 2,700 people, and when I left, we were over 8,000. I would say that we managed the growth in a very effective way, and that community is still growing and it's still prospering. I think I have a wide range of experience. I wouldn't say I'm probably more of a jack of all trades, master of none, than a real, I'm not a bean counter, I probably tend to go towards the planning side of city administration more than anything else. I think I'm a person that, I'm not a top-down manager. I'm a manager that involves the people that work for me. I respect their positions. I don't think that I should be the one that tells the fire chief how to put the fire out in somebody's house. I don't want to do that. I don't want to tell the police officer how to give somebody a DWI ticket. That's not my thing, but I will support those people. Enable them to do their jobs.
Thank you. Why are you interested in this position that we have open today?
Well, number one, I enjoy the interim side of administration, quite frankly. I think you put yourself in a little bit different position than as a full-time basis because your next meal is not dependent on whether you please somebody or not. I also find that if I see something, I can say something and not worry about the political ramifications of where that's going. If I see that there's something wrong and I want to fix it, I can do the right things to get it fixed, I believe. I think you, in an interim basis, you can be pretty effective in a short-term basis. And that, to me, when you're worried about where your next meal is coming from, it's very hard to sometimes dance around some of that politics. So getting back to Breezy, I spent 12 years here. Quite frankly, I enjoyed being here on a part-time basis. I had fun. I worked for some good people. I worked with some very good people, and I met some very nice people in this community. I've still got some good friends. I occasionally go out to lunch with a couple of your planning commission members. So I still got some ties, per se. So Breezy interests me because I do have some feelings for it.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, and I guess number one, what are you folks looking for? Are you looking for somebody to be here 5 days a week? Are you looking for a micromanager? I'm not that. Are you? I'd like to know where the hostility is, because that's something I didn't experience when I was here. But I sure think that's based on what I've read in the newspaper, that is an issue and that probably needs to get resolved. And how do we work to get that resolved? And I guess the other question that I would have is, you as a group, are you all in on doing an interim position at this time? Is there dissension on the council about that? And, maybe that's too many questions at one time.
I can certainly take the lead unless Mr. Jensen, you...
I mean, I think everybody here is on board. I mean, we need an interim city administrator. I mean, obviously, this is budget season. I mean, in my opinion, that's a top priority to get through that and have the discussions and finalize the budget for the council meeting in December.
Yeah, I'd kind of echo that. So, you know, in my tenure here, this is new grounds for us. When the Administrator Rudberg retired, we had him through the time that we gained the next administrator, Mr. Wusso, which then he attended us and got us our next administrator, Mr. Chansky. So this is kind of new grounds for me. And so talking it over with myself, you know, just what's the best thing, and I think we do need that leadership level and having somebody come in to assist us to get through the end of the year. As mentioned, we have a number of projects that are currently in the hopper just to maintain and manage what that is. The goal, in my opinion, is not to take anything on new except for assisting us in finding the next long-term administrator. Guiding us through that and what that process would be looking like. Having you part of those interviews, in my opinion, would be great beneficial. But just being available for staff. You'd mentioned about work hours. I would say my preference would be as much as needed. If it's 3-4 days a week, that'd be great. If you can at least be a resource available for staff that they can contact you if you're not in the office, but be available for staff should anything arise. That's kind of my mind thought is just being available for staff and being in the office here, and preferably like 24 hours, at least minimal a week, but enough to be here to get the job done, to make sure the day-to-day tasks are being accomplished, the projects are on time, the projects are maintaining, and being that resource. I think I would, for sure be attending city council meetings, which is evening and workshops, and then also being part of, asking staff if you need to be there for Parks and Rec meetings, as well as P&Z, and being that resource available should they want you to be there, and have that guidance and leadership available for them. That's, in my mind, that's where my wrapping around with having you here.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say too, knowing what are you available for? We need you 40 hours 1 week. Are you able to be here 40 hours that week? And
I'll relate back to the stint I just did. We just finished with Cross Lake. I started that with thinking that it was probably going to be 28 hours a week or something like that. And it ended up being some weeks for 50. There weren't any other under 32, I'll guarantee you that. But that was a little bit different situation, and it required some more attention than I had anticipated. But that said, I really, I'd like to start with a goal of like 3 days a week and go from there. I know the staff here well enough that I think I would say I trust them. I think they know what they're doing, and I don't think that that staff issues are going to be an issue with me. I still talk to the same staff members that were here when I was here, and in fact, over the last couple of years I was here, some of the staff came to me before they went to the other administrator. That's not saying anything bad about them. It's just that what I'm trying to tell you is that I have a pretty decent relationship with your staff.
And I think that's exactly what we need right now, just for everyone to kind of come back together. And I think having somebody that already has a really good relationship with staff is probably going to be the best thing to move forward. So I do think that to be a really good thing.
I too agree with your management style. I don't think this staff needs micromanaging. I mean, my interactions with you are nothing but positive as a council liaison to planning and zoning. I think your resume speaks for itself. You've got a lot of experience. I mean, being a city administrator or manager at the same city for 32 years is a pretty big accomplishment.
Well, I do like people also, so that's helpful.
And staff is familiar with you is a big plus. So, I mean, you've interacted with them, and at the end of the day, staff needs, an administrator, interim basis. We've got, like I said, budget. Bushman Road will be coming up, street CIP. The council will have to make some decisions, but feel
Our
very.
first committee meeting for streets, do we know when that is?
We had it.
Oh, okay, you did. Yeah, so we have our new
At
committee.
the current council meeting. We formed an ad hoc.
Yeah. You also have an election coming up. And
Yes.
there could be some changes as a result of that. I see a lot of signs running around town. I'm not used to seeing all those local signs.
Yeah, I guess I would just echo that I also am interested in the interim position. I think that would be really beneficial to the city. I also think your resume is great, and all my interactions with you have been positive as well. I was going to say part-time at first too, like hours, so I think 3 days a week maybe makes sense, and then you can see if there's a need for more. From what I understand, you do interact also positively with the staff, so that will be helpful at this time, I think, just to kind of, like Mayor said, just bring everybody back together, so,
Yeah, we start with donuts.
yeah.
My question as we come to conclusion, or if anybody has any more questions, or maybe you have more questions for us, one of my questions that I had would be, if you're chosen to move forward with this, when could your tentative start date be?
I could start Monday.
Okay, thank you. And then just reviewing your contract, underneath the termination clause, this is acknowledging, we've discussed hours to be here minimum 3 days a week, getting the job done, yield to you on making sure that the jobs are getting done. I just want to reiterate that this contract is between the city and yourself, Lake Placid Advisors, and that it would end upon the hiring of a successful permanent full-time administrator. Or if you want to remove yourself, you'd give us a 30-day notice for that. That's correct in this termination language that I see?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
That was the intent behind
There's,
Okay.
there's-
It's just not clear in that paragraph, is why I brought it up, because it doesn't, there's some language missing, so it just doesn't flow like it should. But I wasn't sure if you wanted like a 30-day notice, like if we found a new interim city administrator to just transition out, or if you were looking for just, if we found somebody, you can be done.
well, this is one of the few interim stints that I've done where I've even had a contract. Most of them have been without contracts. It's been a handshake. It's been, if you're happy with me and I'm happy with you, we continue on. If neither one of us or either one of us is not happy, we're gone. And we don't have to go through the 30 days and all that kind of stuff. I don't see any advantage to sticking around for 30 days when you're not happy and I'm not happy. So, I think there's some working back and forth. And I was asked for a copy of that contract more than Michael asked me for the contract, and I provided it with you. You can mess with that in any way you want to. I'm not zeroed in on this is the way it has to be. I can work through those issues, and I don't have any problem with getting halfway through and say, hey, we'd like to review it and change it. I don't have any problem with that either. Sometimes I think these relationships become so formal that you can't work with them anymore, and I really don't want to be in that position.
No,
So
that makes sense.
If you or your attorney wants to work something different, I'm happy to do that.
And this is the contract, just to clarify too, that Cross Lake approved.
Yes,
Yep.
I think it's signed by the mayor and the city clerk, if I'm not mistaken. And they were the ones that prepared that. I didn't even prepare that.
So if we don't want the 30-day notice in there at all, then we can just have that
We could have that removed.
It's really the only part that just is confusing. So, and if we don't need it, and we just want to terminate at will, or we can terminate our relationship with him, and it's just mutual, then we don't need to have a 30-day notice in there.
Would that include then, let's just say we did hire somebody, wouldn't it make sense for him to work with that person to get them onboarded? So not just ending the contract?
Which at the time that we offer, we could certainly ask. And that was one thing that, and again, we can dive deeper into that as a new administrator is going to be onboarded, but is there a transition period? Should Jerry stay here first? Those things will be worked out later on in that.
So we may not want to tie it to the hiring of a new.
Maybe I could comment on
Yeah.
that too.
Well, and my biggest thing, and before, it was more or less that Jerry knows we're asking him to stay until we get a full-time administrator. That is our ask, which that time frame is a variable, right? Until we find a right candidate. So I just want to ensure that you can be here for 3 to 6 months pending our
Yeah,
replacement. That was my more concern of making sure, again, you've been here for 12 years, but communicating, right?
that was part-time. No, I have done these interim stints where the new person walks in the door and I walk out the door and there's no, and I've done them where I've stuck around for 2 weeks to help out through the transition and you know, just kind of back to phone calls and that type of thing. It all depends upon the people, the person that you get to fill that full-time position and what they want for help. And that's variable. Every person is different. Some have more experience than others. Some have very little experience. I was encouraged that in Cross Lake they found a pretty decent pool of people that I haven't seen for a long time. But there's so many variables in that. That's why I don't want to get hung up on 30 days or 24 days or whatever it is. I think we can work through that and work.
Well, and in reality, if you read that verbiage, and I'll yield to you, but in the event the contract is being terminated by the interim city administrator, so he's wanting out, he'll give us a 30-day clause to say, in 30 days, I'd want to be
Right,
out.
but I heard him say he doesn't even need that.
Right, so I'm suggesting we just strike that last sentence from the contract, and if we move forward, and
Get at will,
what's that?
at will.
I think
just
we
gonna
just
have-
have to revise that last paragraph or just remove it entirely because it just doesn't make sense.
I guess I'll defer
I-
to,
I mean, we can work it out
Rebecca
after
on
this.
that.
I don't think it's not.
Yeah, I'll let her take care of that.
The
because
handshake will work for me.
At the beginning, it already says it's going to start on X date, which could be Monday, and ends at such time, date and time agreed upon by the parties. Like, maybe that's all we need.
Sure.
And just strike that whole termination section. I don't think we need it. Based on our relationship with you, Jerry, I think, like you said, we can work
Well,
things out.
I feel more comfortable with not having the formality.
yeah, that's fine by me.
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
So we're going to strike that last paragraph?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Do you have any other further questions for us?
Where's Bushman at?
Open
It's right
house.
over here. No.
I drove it.
Bushman, couldn't we lean on you, Joe, for that full update?
We'll have open house next week. I believe the final plans are 70–80% done. We're navigating through the right-of-way acquisition process. It's not complete. And then the plan, last discussion, the budget, the funds are not allocated for the project. It should be ready to go out for bid. If everything goes correctly, January.
How are you planning on financing it?
To be determined. It'll be, in conjunction, I think, with City Hall, because we did not do anything with bonding yet. We have 18 months, so I think it's going to be very much similar with Bushman, how we decide what percentage of bonding or cash are we going to pay for either one of them. So that's to be determined.
So you're still in that deliberations about that, right? Okay, that's,
Which we'd lean on you for.
Yeah, I think we
the
have
plans
to
are easy, the
finalize the
tough part.
Bushman project in
Well, in
January and
addition to
then.
Bushman though, there's the city's capital improvement plan, for each department, so that needs to be discussed again. We need to finalize that as part of the budget process. Street CIP will be presented at the December meeting as well by WIDSES, so, you know, there's several projects that are coming due for decisions.
Well, I know past councils have been very reluctant to borrow, and it almost seems like there's borrowing in your future.
Yeah, I don't know if we can get around it if we do something like Bushman, you know?
And those are the reasons you guys get the big bucks, to make those decisions.
Any other questions that we can answer at this time?
No, I think I've asked enough.
All right. Any other additional questions of Jerry from the council?
None for me.
All right. Well, thank you, Jerry. I guess you can go back there if you want. And our next item on our agenda then is deliberation and decision on this. We've all kind of talked about the contract here. Again, this was a copy. It's been modified for us, but it was given to us from what the Cross Lake was given and signed off on for that. And so this was modified just to take out and put in Breezy Point. We've talked about removing the termination clause, which we can either leave that subcategory in and just say Jerry is at will, and that way it's there. We've discussed that his start date could be as soon as Monday. Again, go back to where we're at. We were given a list of potential candidates. We've reached out to a number of them. We asked for if anybody else knew on the council of any additional candidates that could be brought forth. We have Jerry's resume and application in front of us, the contract. So at this point, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to approve the hiring of Jerry as interim city administrator.
To start on Monday?
To start on Monday. And if we have to vote on it, a motion also to remove that, in that same motion, to remove that last paragraph of the contract termination. I don't think it's needed.
I would second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome to Breezy Point, again. Welcome back. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.